How do you get paid more for what you do? You may look around and see people who do basically the same job as you, but they're paid way more than you are. And you think, why in the world is that? Why is it that this person should be paid more than I'm paid? Hi, I'm Jason Roberts. I'm a recruiter. I've been a recruiter for 25 years, and I focus on things that help you take control of your career and create the security and freedom that you're dreaming of. The first step in creating security and freedom is getting paid. Getting paid what you deserve to be paid for what you know and what you do. Let's talk about exactly how to do that. I want to talk about two different things. The very first thing is about niching down, getting into the specifics of the skills that people are willing to pay for, because that's really what they're doing. They're paying for you to deliver a piece of work that's in high demand for them. And they're willing to pay more for skills and capabilities that are more in demand. Aligning how you present yourself to the types of skills that they place higher value on, that's how you command a higher salary. I'll give an example. I've been in recruiting for 25 years. I have a number of friends who are HR generalists, meaning they've worked in lots of different places in HR. They've kind of played around in benefits and in compensation. They may have done some employee relations work. And my job has always been recruiting. So they may have done some recruiting along the way as well. But I've always stayed in recruiting. It's the one thing that I do. And I've niched down. I got very good at recruiting. And people are willing to pay me for an added level of expertise. I can be a jack of all trades, meaning I know how to do lots of different things for lots of different companies. Or I can be an ace of one trade. And I'm an ace of one trade. I'm an ace of recruiting. I'm an ace at knowing how to find people jobs. So that is what I did. Now, companies are willing to pay me a premium because I had this level of expertise. I have 25 years of recruiting expertise instead of 5 years of recruiting expertise and 5 years compensation. In that case, if I'm splitting my focus, then I get paid for the level of expertise that I have. And the level of expertise I have is 5 years. The deeper you niche down, the more valuable that is. When I used to recruit IT people, I used to do software people specifically. And software developers, if you were a .NET developer at one of the companies I worked for, .NET developers really have a harder job than, say, a SharePoint developer, which this is going to date me pretty severely. But the example I'm giving is back in, I guess I'll call it 2009 maybe. In 2009, SharePoint was brand new. And back then, it was hard to find SharePoint developers. And there's always some new technology that's hot that somebody's interested in, but this is the one that comes to mind for me now. Well, SharePoint was super hot back then, and SharePoint developers were hard to find. It hadn't been around for very long. It was a very specialty skill. It was a niche skill, and people who had that skill from the very beginning of when SharePoint was a thing, they commanded a higher salary and they were much harder to find. Well, they didn't have any more technical capabilities than a .NET developer. In fact, they probably were a little weaker. The SharePoint people were really about configuring what's possible within that environment, not necessarily writing software. Actual writing software is a much more complex and robust skill set, but the SharePoint guys were being paid more. And the reason for that is it was a unique skill, it was an expertise that was in high demand, and people were willing to pay a premium. And if you had an expertise in that thing, then you got paid more for it. I remember also way back in the day, you would hire lots of generalist software people, but there's one person that was a Lawson specialist. Who uses Lawson? Like hardly anybody uses Lawson anymore. But if you knew Lawson and somebody needed somebody that knew Lawson, you got paid a premium for your expertise because they had niched down. They had that niche experience in that one thing. So that's the trick. You are being paid for a specific piece of expertise. Niching down allows you to have expertise in a very specific place that's focused and that can command extra value in a faster way than broad experience can. Here's the downside to that. There's typically fewer jobs. So when you're niching down, you're narrowing the field of jobs that you can actually go for. Like for me, I can't go for any HR job. I have to go for recruiting jobs. I've narrowed my field, narrowed my search to just recruiting. I can try, but I'm not particularly qualified for those jobs, and I'll get paid much less because the value that I bring in a HR generalist role is much lower than the value I bring for a recruiting specific role. So that's the way that works. Value is actually the second thing I wanted to talk about, because we get paid based on the value that we add, the value that we bring to the company. A lot of us think differently about that. A lot of us think about that as, I have this many years of experience, I deserve to be paid this. Well, you might have that many years of experience, but how much value can you bring to that particular organization? Can they find someone who can do the same thing that you can with less experience? Can they find someone who can impact a broader number of people, meaning they've grown their career and they're able to work faster in some ways, so they're impacting more people? Or they're a manager and they have several people who work for them who do what you do, and they're therefore able to impact the larger number of people. Because that's how value is ultimately derived. This is a really wild concept. You deliver value based on the number of people that you serve. Service is the thing that drives your value. How crazy is that? Serving people is the thing that drives your value up. And the way that it works is, if you serve more people, you serve a broader range of people, you're able to create more value in more places. Now, that can be serving more people internally, and it can be serving more people externally, meaning your customers. So how do you increase your compensation? How do you get paid more for what you do? You find a way to serve more people. Either you get super efficient, you're fast, and you can process and do more than everybody else around you. That's one way to do it. You go up the management hierarchy. That's another way to do it. You go through a technical track and you're able to build things that are architectures, and you're saying, here's the design of how all these other pieces are going to work, and you're designing bigger and broader systems and capabilities. Well, that's another way to have a bigger impact, to bring value to a broader audience than just one-on-one individual value that you can add. That's what it's all about. The value that you can add to an individual, the value you can add to the company. So that's how you get paid more. The last thing I'll say is, based on where you are in your career today, here are the two things that you can do. Number one, focus your resume on niching down. If you have a thing that you've been repetitively doing in all the different companies that you've been in, try to refocus yourself and refocus your resume as an expert at doing that thing. And don't make your resume a generalist resume. Make it an expert resume. So position yourself as an expert in your resume. The second thing that you can do when you're looking for jobs, narrow your search to things that are related to that specialty area that you've had, and keep focusing and drilling into that specialty niche. Because the more and more you know about that, the deeper your knowledge is in that niche, the better you'll do in the end. All right. So those are the two immediate action steps that you can take in order to improve your value and increase what you are paid today for a job. As you build out that resume, I have a free template that you can use. I'll link it down here. It just makes it easy to build the template. It tells you exactly what to put where. And then I'll leave some links at the end here on some other videos on how to search for jobs specifically. And that this niching down works really well if you're using things like ChatGPT to customize your resume. And I have a link on how to do that as well. All right. Best of luck in your job search.